Story 16 A Day in the Life of a Busy Bee. It was a bright and sunny morning in Meadowville, a picturesque village surrounded by rolling hills and blooming flowers. The air was filled with the sweet scent of nectar, and the gentle hum of bees buzzing from flower to flower. Among these bees was Bella, a hard-working and diligent bee known for her dedication to her hive. Bella lived in a bustling hive located in the heart of Meadowville's largest flower field. The hive was a masterpiece of natural engineering, with hexagonal cells meticulously constructed by the bees. Bella's day began early in the morning as the first rays of sunlight filtered through the hive's entrance. As Bella stretched her tiny wings, she felt a sense of purpose and excitement. Today was a special day. It was the day she would lead a team of bees on a foraging expedition to gather nectar and pollen. With a determined buzz, Bella gathered her team and explained the plan. Today, we'll be exploring the north side of Meadowville, near the old oak tree, Bella announced. I've heard that the flowers there are in full bloom, and we can collect a lot of nectar and pollen for the hive. The team of bees buzzed in agreement, their tiny bodies vibrating with enthusiasm. Bella led the way, as they flew out of the hive and into the bright blue sky. The flight to the old oak tree was filled with the vibrant colors of Meadowville's flora. Red poppies, yellow daisies, and bluebells swayed gently in the breeze, creating a beautiful mosaic of nature. When they arrived at the north side, Bella and her team were greeted by a spectacular sight. The area was indeed bursting with flowers, their petals open wide, inviting the bees to partake in their bounty. Bella's wings fluttered with excitement as she landed on a particularly vibrant blossom. With precise movements, Bella extended her proboscis and began to sip the sweet nectar. As she did, she brushed against the flower's stamens, collecting golden pollen on her legs. Bella worked methodically, ensuring she gathered as much nectar and pollen as possible before moving on to the next flower. Meanwhile, her team of bees followed her lead, each bee focusing intently on their task. They moved from flower to flower, their small bodies covered in pollen. As the day progressed, their baskets filled with the precious substances that would sustain their hive. While collecting nectar, Bella noticed something unusual. A small patch of flowers near the base of the old oak tree had not fully opened. Curious, she flew closer to investigate. To her surprise, she found that the flowers were being blocked by a fallen branch, preventing them from blooming properly. Bella quickly assessed the situation. We need to move this branch so these flowers can bloom and we can collect their nectar, she said to her team. The bees, ever resourceful, immediately set to work. They coordinated their efforts, pushing and lifting the branch with their collective strength. After several minutes of intense effort, the branch finally moved, freeing the flowers. As the sunlight reached them, the petals began to open, revealing their hidden nectar. Bella and her team cheered, proud of their accomplishment. They wasted no time in gathering the newly available nectar, knowing it would be a valuable addition to their haul. As the sun began to set, Bella and her team returned to the hive, their baskets overflowing with nectar and pollen. The hive buzzed with activity as the foragers were greeted by the worker bees, who would process their haul into honey and other hive essentials. Bella felt a deep sense of satisfaction as she unloaded her nectar and pollen. She knew that her hard work and the efforts of her team would ensure the hive's prosperity. As she settled into her cell for the night, Bella reflected on the day's events. In the quiet of the hive, Bella felt a sense of unity and purpose. She was part of something greater, a community that thrived on collaboration and hard work. Her life as a busy bee was filled with challenges and rewards, each day bringing new adventures and opportunities. As she drifted off to sleep, Bella dreamed of the flowers she would visit tomorrow, the nectar she would gather, and the hive she would help sustain. She knew that as long as she and her fellow bees worked together, Meadowville's hive would continue to flourish, one flower at a time. Story 17: The Mysterious Door in the Garden. In the quaint town of Greenfield, where every house had a garden and every garden had a story, there was one garden that stood out from the rest. It belonged to an old, ivy-covered house at the end of Maple Street. This garden was filled with an array of colorful flowers, towering trees, and intricate hedges, but what made it truly unique was the mysterious door hidden behind a wall of vines. The house belonged to Mrs. Abigail Turner, a kind but reclusive woman who had lived there for as long as anyone could remember. Children often whispered about the garden and the door, imagining all sorts of fantastical tales. But no one had ever been brave enough to investigate, until one summer day, when young Emily decided to solve the mystery. Emily was an adventurous girl with a vivid imagination. She loved exploring new places and uncovering secrets. So, when she overheard her friends talking about the mysterious door, her curiosity was piqued. Determined to discover what lay behind it, Emily set off towards Mrs. Turner's garden. With the sun high in the sky and the air filled with the scent of blooming roses, Emily carefully made her way through the garden. She pushed aside the vines that covered the old wooden door. The door was weathered and covered in intricate carvings, depicting scenes of mythical creatures and enchanting landscapes. Taking a deep breath, Emily reached for the doorknob. To her surprise, it turned easily, and the door creaked open, revealing a narrow, winding path lined with ancient stone steps. The path led deeper into the garden, to a place that seemed untouched by time. As Emily stepped through the door, she felt a sense of wonder and excitement. The garden on the other side was unlike anything she had ever seen. Giant ferns, exotic flowers, and towering trees created a lush, green canopy overhead. The air was filled with the sounds of birds chirping and leaves rustling in the breeze. Emily followed the path, her eyes wide with amazement. Along the way, she noticed small statues of animals and fairies, each more detailed and lifelike than the last. It felt as if she had stepped into a magical realm, a hidden world waiting to be discovered. After what felt like hours of exploring, Emily came across a clearing with a small, crystal-clear pond at its center. The water sparkled in the sunlight, and colorful fish swam just below the surface. On the far side of the pond, there was a stone bench with an inscription that read, "To those who seek the truth, may you find it here." Emily sat on the bench, pondering the meaning of the inscription. She had always believed in the power of curiosity and the importance of seeking the truth, and now she felt closer than ever to uncovering the mystery of the garden. As she sat there, lost in thought, she heard a gentle voice behind her. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" Startled, Emily turned to see Mrs. Turner standing there, a warm smile on her face. "I see you found my secret garden," she said, her eyes twinkling with kindness. "I didn't mean to intrude," Emily said quickly. "I was just so curious about the door." Mrs. Turner chuckled. "It's quite all right, my dear. I'm glad you found it. This garden has been my sanctuary for many years, a place of peace and reflection. Emily listened intently as Mrs. Turner explained the history of the garden. It had been created by her great-grandfather, a renowned botanist and explorer, who had brought back rare plants and seeds from his travels around the world. Over the years, the garden had grown and evolved, becoming a place of wonder and magic. I've always believed that curiosity and a sense of wonder are the keys to discovering the beauty of the world, Mrs. Turner said. And you, Emily, have that same spirit. Emily felt a sense of pride and joy at Mrs. Turner's words. She knew that she had found something truly special, a hidden treasure that few others had ever seen. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the garden, Mrs. Turner and Emily walked back to the mysterious door. "You're welcome to visit the garden anytime," Mrs. Turner said. "Just remember to always approach it with an open heart and a curious mind." Emily thanked Mrs. Turner and promised to return. As she stepped back through the door and into the familiar garden, she felt a renewed sense of wonder and excitement. The mysterious door had led her to a magical place, but more importantly, it had taught her the value of curiosity and the joy of discovery. From that day on, Emily visited the garden often, each time uncovering new wonders and deepening her friendship with Mrs. Turner. And as she grew older, she never lost her sense of curiosity, always seeking out new adventures and embracing the magic of the world around her.